The great dome of Chryssari glowed violet against the twin moons. Its translucent energy shields shimmered like gossamer, impenetrable and perfect, a testament to the Empire's technological supremacy. To Dallas, slumped against the cold metal wall of his cell, they were merely another reminder of his imprisonment. 3 months had passed since the Chryssari battleships had disabled his exploration vessel. 3 months of captivity, of watching fellow humans and aliens from a dozen worlds being broken under the Empire's boot. Dallas closed his eyes, recalling the moment his ship's sensors had detected the approaching fleet. Too late to flee, too weak to fight. The Chryssari shields had absorbed every weapon his vessel possessed, while their ion cannons had cut through his defenses like paper. Engineer. The voice from the doorway was cold, mechanical, a translation device worn by his Chryssari guard. Emperor Vorak demands entertainment. You fight tomorrow. Dallas looked up, meeting the guard's four-pupiled eyes. The Chryssari stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent wings folded tightly against an armored back. Every member of their species possessed natural armor plating, reinforced further by energy shield technology. I'm not a fighter, Dallas said. I'm a mechanical engineer. The guard's mandibles clicked in what Dallas had learned was amusement. Then engineer a way to survive, human, or don't. The crowd enjoys either outcome. After the guard left, Dallas slumped back against the wall. The arena. He'd heard the stories from other prisoners. Few returned from those blood-soaked sands. Those who did came back changed, hollowed out. The arena served dual purposes: entertainment for the elite Chryssari and culling of the prisoner population. In the darkness of his cell, Dallas's fingers found a loose piece of metal he'd pried from his bunk weeks ago. He'd been working on it in secret, shaping it when guards weren't watching. A perfect sphere of dense iron, connected to a length of chain he'd fashioned from his meal's restraints. It was primitive, almost laughable compared to Chryssari weapons, but it was all he had. What's that supposed to be? Dallas startled. Eliza stood at the bars separating their cells. She was human like him, but had been here much longer. The scars on her face told that story clearly enough. Just something to keep my hands busy, he lied. Eliza's eyes narrowed. No, you're building a weapon. She lowered her voice. There are others like us, fighting back. The resistance grows with each new system they conquer. What good is resistance? Dallas whispered. Their shields are impenetrable. Are they? Eliza's lips curved into a smile. Everything has a weakness, engineer. Find it tomorrow. It might just save us all. The arena rose like a massive crown at the heart of the Chryssari capital. Dallas stood in the holding area, clutching his makeshift flail. Around him, other prisoners, some human, some alien species he'd never seen before, prepared themselves with whatever pathetic weapons they'd been allowed. A massive Chryssari official walked down the line, inspecting each prisoner. When he reached Dallas, he paused at the sight of the metal ball and chain. What is this toy? He demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly. My weapon, Dallas answered, trying to keep his voice steady. The official burst into a sound Dallas recognized as laughter. The human brings a child's toy to battle. Emperor Vorak will be most amused. He moved on, still making that clicking laugh. The gates opened with a thunderous groan. Dallas followed the other prisoners onto the sand-covered floor of the arena. Above them, thousands of Chryssari filled the seats, their wings fluttering with excitement, creating a sound like distant thunder. On an elevated platform sat Emperor Vorak, his wings extended in a display of dominance, twice the size of any other Chryssari. Beside him sat a smaller figure, wings folded demurely. Dallas squinted against the harsh sunlight. Unlike the Emperor's obsidian coloring, this one had wings of deepest crimson. Welcome, subjects and lesser beings. The Emperor's voice boomed across the arena. Today's games begin with a simple challenge. Survive. The gates on the opposite side of the arena groaned open. Robotic combat units rolled forward. 10 of them, each armed with energy weapons that could cut through bone. Chaos erupted. Prisoners scattered, some charging forward with desperate courage, others fleeing to the edges of the arena. Dallas gripped his flail, backing away slowly, analyzing the robot's movements. They were programmed to hunt, to corner their prey one by one. Two prisoners fell in quick succession, cut down by energy beams. A third, a muscular alien with tentacles instead of arms, managed to disable one robot before being surrounded by three more. Dallas kept to the edges, swinging his flail in wide circles. The weight of the metal sphere gave it momentum, and when a robot approached too closely, he smashed it against the machine's optical sensor. The robot staggered back, momentarily blinded, giving Dallas time to retreat. As the minutes stretched into an hour, the prisoners were whittled down to just Dallas and one other, a four-armed being who fought with surprising skill. But even they eventually fell, leaving Dallas alone against the final robot. He was exhausted, bleeding from a grazing shot to his shoulder. The robot advanced, its targeting system focused squarely on him. Dallas backed up until he felt the arena wall behind him. Nowhere left to run. The crowd had grown quieter, intrigued by the last human standing. Even Emperor Vorak leaned forward on his throne. As the robot raised its weapon, Dallas made a desperate gamble. He threw his flail directly at the machine's central processing unit, a small, protected area at its core. To his amazement, the metal sphere cracked the protective casing. The robot froze, then collapsed in a heap of sparking metal. Silence fell over the arena. Then, slowly, a murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. Dallas stood panting, as shocked as anyone else at his victory. Emperor Vorak rose, wings extending to their full, impressive span. Interesting, his voice echoed. The human survives with a primitive weapon. He turned to the crimson-winged figure beside him. Rin, my daughter and champion. Perhaps you would provide a more appropriate challenge. The crimson-winged Chrysari stood gracefully. Rin, the Emperor's daughter. Dallas felt his stomach drop as she launched herself from the platform, wings spreading wide to carry her down to the arena floor. She landed with impossible lightness, sand barely disturbed beneath her armored feet. Up close, Rin was both beautiful and terrifying. Unlike most Chrysari, whose exoskeletons were marked with tribal patterns, hers was smooth and unmarked, the color of burnished copper. Her four eyes, emerald against the copper of her face, regarded Dallas with cold curiosity. "This is your weapon?" she asked, gesturing to the flail Dallas had retrieved. Her voice was clear, without need for a translation device. She'd learned his language. "It is," Dallas replied, trying to mask his fear. Rin's mandibles clicked in amusement. "A toy against this." She raised her arm, and an energy shield materialized, a perfect dome of shimmering violet light surrounding her entire body. "Our shields have never been breached. They are the pinnacle of Chrysari engineering." Dallas tightened his grip on the flail. "There's always a first time." "Indeed," Rin agreed, drawing a slender sword that hummed with energy. "And a last." She moved with blinding speed, closing the distance before Dallas could react. Only instinct saved him as he dove to the side, her blade slicing the air where he'd stood a moment before. The crowd roared its approval. As Dallas scrambled to his feet, he noticed something. When Rin moved quickly, her shield rippled slightly, adjusting to her momentum. If he could time it right, Rin attacked again, her movements graceful and deadly. Dallas dodged desperately, swinging his flail to keep her at bay. The metal sphere bounced harmlessly off her shield, exactly as everyone expected. But Dallas wasn't aiming to break through. Not yet. He was watching, observing how the shield reacted to different impacts. The crowd was growing restless, shouting for Rin to finish him. Even Emperor Vorak had resumed his seat, apparently bored by the inevitable outcome. Only Rin seemed to sense something was amiss. "You're stalling," she said during a brief respite, circling him warily. "I'm learning," Dallas corrected her, continuing to swing his flail in a steady rhythm. Rin's eyes narrowed. "Learning what, human? How to die slowly?" Dallas didn't answer. He'd spotted it, the pattern he was looking for. When the shield deflected an impact, it briefly concentrated energy at the point of contact, drawing power from other areas. If he could hit it in rapid succession, in precisely the right spots. Rin tired of the game. She charged, sword raised for a killing blow. Dallas stood his ground until the last possible moment, then spun to the side. As Rin passed him, he swung the flail with all his strength. The metal sphere struck her shield at the exact point where it was weakest from adjusting to her momentum. For a split second, the shield wavered. Dallas didn't hesitate. He reversed his swing, striking again in the same spot. The shield shattered. The sound was like crystal breaking, echoing across the suddenly silent arena. Rin staggered backward, eyes wide with disbelief. Her armor had protected her from the physical impact, but the psychological blow was devastating. Emperor Vorak rose from his throne, wings fully extended in alarm. The crowd erupted in chaos, some cheering the unexpected spectacle, others crying out in shock. No one had ever seen a Chryssari shield broken before. It was supposed to be impossible. Dallas stood motionless, as surprised as anyone by what he'd done. He'd found the weakness, the resonance pattern that destabilized the shield's energy matrix. It wasn't about force, it was about timing and frequency. Before he could fully process his discovery, arena guards surrounded him. Not to kill him, he realized with surprise, but to escort him from the sands. As they led him away, he caught Rin's gaze. There was no longer contempt in those emerald eyes, but something new, something frightening in its intensity. Curiosity. How did you do it? The question came from the shadows of Dallas's new cell, larger than the previous one, but a prison nonetheless. He'd been moved immediately after the arena, marched through corridors of stunned Chryssari officials. Dallas peered into the darkness. Who's there? Rin stepped into the light. Without her ceremonial armor, she seemed smaller, though still imposingly tall compared to Dallas. Her wings were folded tightly against her back, a sign of restraint he'd learned. How did you break my shield? She repeated. No species has ever done that. Not in all our conquests. Dallas hesitated. The information was valuable, possibly his only leverage. Resonance, he finally said. Your shields operate on an energy frequency. Hit it at the right counter-frequency, and the matrix destabilizes. Impossible. Our shields adapt to all known frequencies. All known to the Chryssari, Dallas corrected, but not all possible frequencies. Rin studied him with unnerving intensity. My father wants you dead, she said flatly. Sora, his advisor, has already prepared the execution order. Dallas swallowed hard. And you? I convinced him your knowledge is too valuable, that you could help us eliminate this. Vulnerability. Why would I help strengthen the shields that keep my people enslaved? Rin's mandibles clicked softly. Because the alternative is immediate death. Help us, and you live. It's a simple equation, human. Dallas, he said. My name is Dallas. Dallas, then. Rin stepped closer to the energy barrier, separating them. Make your choice. He knew there was only one answer that would keep him alive. I'll help. Rin nodded, seemingly satisfied. You begin tomorrow, under my supervision. After she left, Dallas slumped against the wall. He bought time, nothing more. But time might be enough to understand their technology better, enough to find a more permanent weakness. Pust. New guy. Dallas turned toward the adjacent cell. A familiar face peered through the small gap between panels. Eliza. They moved you too? He whispered. All part of the plan, she replied with a grim smile. You've done the impossible, Dallas. You've given the resistance hope. She glanced toward the corridor. There are more of us than you know. Humans, Zeltrans, Verati, all waiting for a chance to strike back. What good is striking back? Even with the shield weakness, they outnumber us thousands to one. Numbers don't win revolutions. Ideas do. Eliza's eyes gleamed. And you've planted the most dangerous idea of all in their minds, that they're not invincible. Dallas considered this. The Emperor's daughter, she's going to have me working on their shields. Perfect, Eliza whispered. Learn everything you can. Find a way to disable not just one shield, but all of them. She pressed something small and metallic through the gap. When the time comes, use this. It's a communication device. The resistance will be waiting. Dallas palmed the tiny object, concealing it quickly. How will I know when? Eliza's smile was fierce. Trust me, you'll know. The Crisari Research Facility sprawled beneath the Imperial Palace, a vast complex of laboratories and testing chambers. Dallas was escorted there the next morning, flanked by guards whose nervousness was evident in their twitching wings. Word had spread about his feat in the arena. The lab they brought him to was impressive even by Earth standards. Advanced equipment lined the walls, and holographic displays showed shield matrices in real time. A team of Crisari engineers looked up as he entered, their mandibles clicking rapidly in what Dallas now recognized as agitation. Rin stood at the center of the room, her crimson wings slightly extended in a posture of authority. Beside her stood an older female Crisari with wings of deep blue, her exoskeleton decorated with intricate patterns of rank. "Dallas, this is Sora, chief advisor to Emperor Vorak." Rin introduced them, her tone formal. Sora's four eyes narrowed as she studied Dallas. "So this is the human who claims to have found a flaw in our shield technology." Her voice dripped with skepticism. "A primitive creature with a primitive weapon." "Not claims," Rin corrected sharply. "I was there. He did it. Perhaps you simply failed to properly maintain your shield." "Princess," Sora suggested, mandibles clicking softly. "Regardless, Emperor Vorak has commanded that we investigate. So we shall." She turned to Dallas. "You will demonstrate exactly what you did. If you attempt deception, you die. If you refuse to cooperate, you die. Is that clear?" "Crystal," Dallas replied, keeping his expression neutral. Over the next several days, Dallas worked under constant supervision. He explained the resonance theory, carefully omitting critical details while appearing cooperative. They gave him access to shield specifications, testing equipment, even his flail for demonstration purposes. The Crisari engineers were brilliant but arrogant. They refused to believe their technology could have such a fundamental weakness. Instead, they focused on what they assumed was an anomaly, a one-time shield malfunction. Only Rin seemed to truly listen. She observed Dallas closely, asking pointed questions that revealed a sharp, analytical mind. During one late session, when the other engineers had left, she approached him as he worked on a simulation. "You're not telling us everything," she said without preamble. Dallas glanced up. "I've explained the resonance theory in detail. Yet when we implement your suggestions, the shields do not fail as they did in the arena." Rin's eyes bore into his. "What? Maybe I just got lucky," Dallas suggested. "You don't believe in luck. Neither do I." Rin leaned closer, lowering her voice. "There's something you're holding back. A key element." Dallas hesitated. Rin was dangerous, the Emperor's daughter, a warrior bred for conquest. But there was something in her manner, a curiosity that went beyond duty. "The shields aren't flawed," he admitted. "They're actually brilliant. But they're designed to counter direct force. Energy weapons, projectiles, explosives. My weapon isn't about force. It's about timing." Rin considered this. "Show me." Dallas picked up his flail and approached one of the shield generators they'd been testing. "Your shields create a perfect energy matrix, interconnected nodal points that distribute impact across the entire surface." He began swinging the flail in a slow circle. But when the shield adjusts to movement, there's a millisecond delay as the matrix reconfigures. He demonstrated, striking the active shield with precise timing. The shield flickered but held. "You're pulling back," Rin observed. "If I don't, I'll destroy expensive equipment," Dallas replied, "and probably get executed for it." A surprising sound escaped Rin, a soft click that Dallas recognized as laughter. "Fair point." She deactivated the shield. "We'll continue tomorrow. You've given me something to consider." As the days passed, a strange routine developed. Dallas would work with the engineering team during the day, under Sora's suspicious gaze. In the evenings, Rin would often return alone, and their conversations would extend beyond shield technology to other topics. Earth's history, the expansion of the Crisari Empire, philosophical differences between their species. "Why do you conquer?" Dallas asked one night, after they'd been discussing the shield modifications. Rin seemed surprised by the question. "It's what we've always done. The strong rule, the weak serve. It's the natural order." "Is it?" "On Earth, Some of our greatest advancements came through cooperation, not conquest. A weakness, Rin replied, but without her usual conviction. Then why are you talking to me now? Why not just take what you need and discard me? Rin didn't answer immediately. Her wings shifted, a subtle movement Dallas had learned indicated discomfort. You interest me, she finally said. Your solution was elegant, unexpected, different from how we approach problems. Different isn't always wrong, Dallas said quietly. Rin's emerald eyes studied him. No, she agreed after a long moment. Perhaps it isn't. Meanwhile, in his cell during the brief hours allocated for rest, Dallas communicated with Eliza through the small device she'd given him. The resistance was growing, spreading through the labor camps and prison complexes. They were waiting for him to find a way to disable the shields empire-wide. The shields all operate on the same base frequency, Dallas explained in hushed tones. If I can create a cascading resonance wave. How close are you? Eliza asked. Close. But I need access to the central shield generators. They're keeping me isolated in this research lab. We're working on it, Eliza promised. The uprising is nearly ready. We just need your signal. Dallas signed off, hiding the device in a small crevice he'd found in his cell wall. As he lay back on his bunk, he thought about Rin. She was changing, subtly but undeniably, asking questions about Earth, about other worlds the Crisari had conquered. Once, she'd even asked if he resented being a prisoner. He did, of course. But more than that, he resented what the Crisari had done to countless worlds, countless species. Yet when he looked at Rin, he no longer saw just the enemy. He saw someone caught in the same Imperial machine as he was, simply on the other side. Emperor Vorak requires a demonstration, Sora announced one morning, striding into the laboratory. He grows impatient with these endless tests. Dallas looked up from the shield module he'd been modifying. Beside him, Rin straightened, her wings tensing slightly. We're making progress, Rin said. The human has identified several areas for improvement. Improvement is not what the Emperor commanded. Sora cut her off. He wanted the vulnerability eliminated. Instead, you spend days in conversation with this prisoner. Her mandibles clicked rapidly. Some might question where your loyalties lie, princess. Rin's wings extended partially, a sign of anger. My loyalty to my father and the Empire is absolute. Then prove it, Sora challenged. Tomorrow, the Emperor will witness a demonstration of the new shield technology. If it fails as before, the human dies. If it succeeds, perhaps your interest in him can be excused. After Sora left, Rin turned to Dallas, her usually composed demeanor shaken. What modifications have you made to the shields? Will they withstand your weapon now? Dallas hesitated. He'd been making authentic improvements to their technology, enough to appear cooperative, while secretly developing a backdoor, a hidden frequency that could trigger systemic shield failure across the entire network. They should, he lied. The resonance issue has been addressed. Rin studied him, her emerald eyes unreadable. For your sake, I hope so. She lowered her voice. Sora has been watching us closely. She believes I've been compromised. Have you? Dallas asked before he could stop himself. Rin's wings twitched. I've begun to question things I once accepted without thought. Is that compromise or growth? She moved closer. The stories you've told me about Earth, about cooperation instead of conquest, they've made me see the Empire differently. Differently enough to want change? Change is dangerous, Rin whispered, especially for a princess who will one day inherit the throne. Before Dallas could respond, the laboratory door slid open and guards entered to escort him back to his cell. As they led him away, he caught Rin's gaze, troubled, conflicted, but also determined. That night, Dallas contacted Eliza urgently. It's happening tomorrow, he whispered into the communication device. Vorak will be there. The entire Imperial Court. Perfect. Eliza's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. The resistance is ready. When you trigger the shield failure, we'll launch simultaneous attacks across the capital. There's a complication, Dallas admitted. Rin, the princess. She's different from the others. She's starting to question the Empire's methods. A pause. She's the Emperor's daughter, Dallas. The heir to everything we're fighting against. I know, but don't let personal feelings compromise the mission. Eliza cut him off. Millions of lives depend on this. Tomorrow, when you demonstrate the shield, you trigger the back door. No matter who gets caught in the crossfire. After signing off, Dallas paced his cell. He'd built the back door into the shield modifications, disguised as an improvement to the energy distribution system. One specific frequency from his flail would activate it, creating a cascading failure that would spread throughout the connected shield network. But Rin would be there. She'd trusted him, in her way. She was changing, questioning the empire that had raised her to be its perfect warrior. Yet how many had died under Crisari rule? How many worlds had fallen to their conquest, their people enslaved or killed? A single Crisari, even one beginning to see the truth, couldn't outweigh that. Could she? The Imperial demonstration chamber was massive, its high ceiling lost in shadow. Arranged in tiered seating were hundreds of Crisari nobility, their wings creating a kaleidoscope of colors against the dark walls. At the center, on an elevated dais, sat Emperor Vorak, his obsidian wings extended in a display of dominance. Dallas stood on the demonstration floor, his flail in hand. Across from him, Rin wore her full battle armor, the shield generator prominent on her forearm. Around the perimeter, guards stood ready, energy weapons trained on Dallas. Proceed, Emperor Vorak commanded, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. Rin activated her shield. The familiar violet energy dome materialized around her, but Dallas could see subtle differences, the improvements he'd legitimately made strengthening its structure. The human will attempt to breach the shield as before, Sora announced from beside the Emperor. If he succeeds, it proves our technology is flawed. If he fails, it proves his previous success was mere chance. Dallas began swinging his flail, establishing the rhythm. The weight of the metal sphere pulled against his arm, familiar after weeks of practice. The crowd watched in tense silence. As he circled Rin, their eyes met. There was a question in her gaze. Trust? Betrayal? He couldn't tell. Dallas struck the shield with a precise hit. It held firm, rippling slightly at the impact point, but quickly stabilizing. The crowd murmured with approval. He struck again. Again, the shield held. As I suspected, Sora declared triumphantly. A one-time anomaly, nothing more. Emperor Vorak leaned forward. Is this true, human? Was your victory in the arena merely luck? Dallas continued swinging the flail, buying time. The decision before him was impossible. Trigger the back door, and the revolution would begin, but Rin's trust would be shattered along with her shield. Don't trigger it, and the Empire's oppression would continue unchallenged. Answer your Emperor, Sora demanded. Dallas looked at Rin once more. Something in her expression had changed, a dawning realization, perhaps understanding of his inner conflict. Imperceptibly, she nodded. Dallas adjusted his grip on the flail. With precise timing, he struck the shield at exactly the frequency that would trigger the back door. For a moment, nothing happened. The shield rippled, stabilized, and held. Then, like a crystal note sustaining too long, it shattered. But this was different from the arena. The energy didn't simply disperse. It collapsed inward, then pulsed outward in a wave that spread across the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as the palace's central shield generator detected the cascading failure and was shut down. Chaos erupted. Guards rushed forward, then stopped in confusion as their personal shields failed simultaneously. Nobility rose from their seats, wings fluttering in panic. Emperor Vorak stood, his massive wings fully extended in rage. Treason, Sora shrieked, pointing at Dallas. Kill him. Kill the human. Guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the chamber doors burst open. Resistance fighters poured in. Humans, Zeltrons, and other species Dallas had never seen before. Leading them was Eliza, wielding a Crisari energy weapon. Now, she shouted. While their shields are down, the fighting was intense and immediate. Dallas dove for cover as energy blasts crisscrossed the chamber. Through the chaos, he saw Rin standing motionless at the center, her shield gone, her armor suddenly inadequate protection. Emperor Vorak roared commands, his personal guard forming a protective circle around him. Sora was already retreating toward a hidden exit, her blue wings blurring with speed. Dallas fought his way across the chamber floor, dodging blasts and grappling combatants. He reached Rin just as a resistance fighter took aim at her. "No!" Dallas shouted, throwing himself between them. "She's with us." The fighter hesitated, then turned to engage another target. Rin stared at Dallas, her emerald eyes wide with shock. "You knew," she said. "You planned this all along." "Yes," Dallas admitted, "but I didn't know what to do about you." A bitter laugh escaped her. "And now, am I prisoner or ally?" "That depends on you," Dallas said, ducking as an explosion rocked the far side of the chamber. "Your father's empire has enslaved worlds, slaughtered millions. It can't continue." Rin's wings trembled. "And you think I should betray everything I've known? My father? My people? Not betray," Dallas corrected. "Save." Led them toward something better. A shout drew their attention. Emperor Vorak had broken free of the fighting, heading for an escape route. Several resistance fighters lay dead in his wake. "He'll activate the secondary shield network," Rin said urgently. "There's a backup system." "Show me," Dallas said. Together they ran, dodging through the ongoing battle. Eliza caught Dallas's eye across the chamber and gave a quick nod. Permission to pursue the Emperor, trust in his judgment about Rin. They followed Vorak through palace corridors now filled with fighting. The Emperor's personal guard cleared a path before him, cutting down anyone in their way. Dallas and Rin kept pace, using service passages Rin knew from childhood. "This way," Rin whispered, pulling Dallas down a narrow corridor. "We can intercept him at the auxiliary control room." They emerged into a massive chamber dominated by a central control pillar. Emperor Vorak stood before it, his wings fully extended, mandibles working rapidly as he input commands. "Father," Rin called out. Vorak turned, his four eyes widening at the sight of his daughter standing beside the human. "What is this?" "Rin." "It's over, Father," Rin said, her voice steady despite her trembling wings. "The shields have fallen. The resistance is taking the palace." "Nothing is over," Vorak snarled. "One setback does not end an empire. When the auxiliary shields activate, this pathetic rebellion will be crushed." His gaze shifted to Dallas. "And you, human, you've corrupted my daughter with your lies." "Not lies," Dallas countered. "Just perspectives you've never considered. There are better ways to rule than through fear and dominance." Vorak's wings beat once, powerfully. "Weakness. This is why lesser species remain lesser. You lack the will to do what must be done." He turned back to the control pillar. "The auxiliary shields will re-establish order." "They won't," Rin said, stepping forward. "Because I've already locked you out." Vorak froze, then slowly turned. "What did you say?" "While you were fighting in the demonstration chamber, I used my royal access codes to change the authentication protocols." Rin's voice was calm, but Dallas could see the strain in her posture. "The auxiliary shields won't respond to your commands." For a moment, Vorak seemed unable to comprehend his daughter's betrayal. Then, with a roar of rage, he launched himself at them. Dallas raised his flail, but Vorak was too fast, too powerful. A sweep of his armored arm sent Dallas crashing into the wall. Rin met her father's charge, blocking his first strike with practiced ease. They fought with the fluid grace of those trained in the same combat style. Every attack anticipated, every defense countered. "I taught you everything you know," Vorak growled as they circled each other. "Not everything," Rin replied. She glanced quickly at Dallas, who was struggling to his feet. "I've learned new perspectives." Vorak attacked again, driving Rin backward with the sheer force of his blows. Though skilled, she was outmatched by her father's strength and experience. A vicious strike caught her midsection, sending her sprawling to the floor. Vorak stood over her, wings extended in dominance. "You disappoint me, daughter. After everything I've given you." "Given me?" Rin's laugh was bitter. "You've given me a lifetime of conquest and subjugation, of watching other species suffer for our natural superiority. Dallas showed me another way: cooperation, mutual respect. Weakling philosophy. Vorak spat, raising his arm for a killing blow. Dallas had regained his feet. With all his strength, he hurled his flail. The metal sphere struck Vorak's unprotected back, right between his wings, the most vulnerable point on a Crisari's body. The Emperor staggered, roaring in pain. Rin seized the opportunity. She rolled to her feet and struck her father with a precise blow to his thorax. Vorak dropped to his knees, mandibles clicking in shock and pain. "It's over, father," Rin said, standing over him. "The empire as you built it ends today." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. Eliza appeared at the entrance, followed by resistance fighters. Her eyes widened at the scene before her. "Emperor Vorak," she said, her voice hard with years of suppressed rage. Finally, Vorak glared at them all, defiant even in defeat. "Kill me then. Prove you're no better than what you claim to hate." "No," Dallas said, retrieving his flail. "That's not what this is about. Justice, yes. Vengeance, no." Eliza stepped forward. "The Emperor will stand trial for crimes against countless worlds, as will his advisors." She looked at Rin. "And you, princess?" Rin met her gaze steadily. "I've committed my own crimes in service to the Empire. I don't expect forgiveness, only the chance to help build something better from the ruins." "We'll see," Eliza said, not unkindly. She gestured to her fighters, who moved to secure Vorak. As they led the Emperor away, Dallas approached Rin. "Are you all right?" "No," she answered honestly. "I betrayed my father, my upbringing, everything I was raised to believe." Her wings shifted restlessly, and yet it feels like waking from a long sleep. "Rebuilding won't be easy," Dallas warned. "There will be those who want revenge, not reconciliation." "I know." Rin's mandibles clicked softly. "But for the first time, I'm choosing my path, not following one laid before me." Eliza returned, having dispatched Vorak with the guards. "The palace is secure. Reports are coming in from across the capital. The shield failure was complete. Resistance cells are rising up in every sector." "And Sora?" Dallas asked. "Escaped for now, but without the shields, her forces are vulnerable. It's only a matter of time." Dallas nodded, then winced at a sharp pain in his side. The fight with Vorak had left him more injured than he'd initially realized. "You need medical attention," Rin observed, supporting him with surprising gentleness. Eliza watched them with a complicated expression. "We've established a treatment center in the East Wing for all wounded, regardless of species." She emphasized the last words, a small acknowledgement of Rin's changing status. As they made their way through the palace corridors, Dallas observed the aftermath of revolution. Crisari guards stood disarmed, being processed by resistance members. Former prisoners moved with new purpose. Outside, through massive windows, he could see the shield domes that had protected the capital for centuries, now dark and inactive. "What happens next?" he asked no one in particular. "Rebuilding," Eliza answered. "Establishing a new government, one that represents all species, not just the Crisari." "Will they accept that?" Dallas glanced at Rin. "Centuries of being the dominant species won't be easy to undo." "No," Rin agreed. "Many will resist. But many others have questioned the Empire's methods for years, silently. They'll embrace change, given the chance." They reached the medical center, where doctors of various species worked side by side to treat the wounded. A human physician began examining Dallas's injuries while a Crisari healer checked Rin. "Your weapon," Rin said suddenly, gesturing to the flail Dallas had placed beside him. The one everyone called a toy. It changed everything. Dallas looked at the simple metal sphere and chain. It wasn't the weapon that mattered. It was finding the weakness no one thought existed, and having the courage to exploit it, Eliza added, joining them after checking on other resistance members. Most would have used that discovery to save only themselves. "What will you do now?" Rin asked Dallas. "Return to Earth?" He hadn't considered what would come after. For months, survival had been his only goal, then revolution. But now, "I'm not sure Earth is still home," he admitted, "and there's work to be done here. Technology to rebuild, systems to redesign. He glanced at Rin. Bridges to build between species. She held his gaze, her emerald eyes reflecting the same uncertainty and hope he felt. Difficult work. The most important kind, he replied. Outside the medical center windows, one of the twin moons had risen, casting silver light across the capital. Where once the violet shields had dominated the skyline, now the actual stars were visible, countless points of light, worlds without number. In the soft glow, Dallas could see former prisoners and Crisari citizens gathering in small groups, talking warily but without immediate hostility. The beginnings of something new, fragile but real. Eliza followed his gaze. It won't be easy. Generations of hatred don't disappear overnight. No, Dallas agreed. But they called this a toy too. He lifted his flail until it shattered their shields in one hit. Rin's mandibles clicked in what Dallas now recognized as her version of smile. Sometimes the impossible simply hasn't been tried yet. As night fell fully on the Crisari capital, the embers of revolution continued to spread, not in flames of destruction, but in countless small acts of cooperation, of former enemies working side by side to treat the wounded, to restore power, to begin the long process of building something new from the ashes of empire. And in a quiet corner of the medical center, a human engineer and a Crisari princess watched the stars together, contemplating the future they had created with a primitive weapon and the courage to use it. Not just a toy after all,